Pragmatic Democrats Are Worthless by Drew Magary. Hop with me into the time machine for a moment. Excuse the mess in the passenger seat. I just ate at Kava and didn't have a chance to throw my shit out. Now I'm going to take you all the way back to the year 2015. Uptown Funk holds permanent dominion over human ears. No one knows what color a dress is. Kevin Durant has yet to join the Golden State Warriors and then leave them. Left shark is a thing. Neil Patrick Harris won't stop doing JV magic tricks at the Oscars. Rats are smuggling entire slices of pizza into the New York subway system. And former Senator and Secretary of State Hillary Clinton stands poised to become the first female major party nominee for president in American history. Hillary is grinding her way through the cycle of campaign stops and fundraisers, many fundraisers in her case, and debates against her opponents, the most imposing of whom is that cocky young upstart Bernie Sanders. Undeterred, Hillary ends up besting Bernie by deftly framing herself as someone who is experienced and clever enough in the machinations of Washington to get things done. Hillary, of course, ended up clinching the nomination the following year, but then losing in the general election to a racist toddler incapable of housing more than 4 thoughts in his brain on any given day. I remember at the time feeling like we were doomed to repeat the 2016 election cycle until the end of humanity. Lo and behold, here we are 3 long and grueling years later, and Democrats are still teaching each other all the wrong lessons, all in the name of what they consider to be politically feasible. I just watched the latest Dem debate, same hashtag and all, in which Joe Biden, who voted to authorize the 2003 invasion of Iraq, cost $2.3 trillion, wanted to know how we were going to pay for Medicare for all. This was a debate in which the moderate candidates, Amy Klobuchar, Cory Booker, etc., only managed to distinguish themselves when they were not being moderate. Those occasional pivots to progressivism were heartening, but they rang awfully hollow when you consider the actions of the Democratic Party right now out in the field. Out there, it's 2016 all over again. This spring, the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee, DCCC, created a de facto blacklist to wall off vital funding to insurgent primary candidates so that incumbents couldn't be unseated, Joe Crowley style. On Monday, North Carolina's state Democrats voted overwhelmingly to rubber stamp a redrawn electoral map that was gerrymandered to favor Republicans in future elections, but offered enough protections to those same sitting Democrats to get them to acquiesce to it. Impeachment of the president, a check on executive power that a majority Democratic Congress clearly ought to pursue, remains in the kind of development hell normally reserved for a remake of The Crow. Right now it remains in its embryonic stages. Corey Lewandowski gets to be in the delivery room for some reason. And then there is the matter of Brett Kavanaugh, who ascended to the Supreme Court last year despite credible accusations of sexual assault. Kavanaugh then wasted no time exacting his revenge on his detractors by becoming the predictably decisive right-wing swing vote in favor of any ruling that fucks over anyone who has worse seats at Nationals games than he has. Over the weekend, the New York Times ran a book excerpt that detailed a second corroborated instance of Kavanaugh committing sexual assault while still in college. As with everything the Times does now, this bit of news was presented so poorly as to make the Times' idiocy the locus of the story, rather than the fact that Kavanaugh perjured himself during his own breathtakingly rigged confirmation hearings. His confirmation was a crime of historic import. He doesn't deserve to mow lawns for a living, much less sit on the highest court in the land. Here now is a chance to possibly undo a horrific wrong by impeaching Kavanaugh from a position he never ever deserved to hold in the first place. And how has Democratic leadership responded? Get real, as Senator Minority Whip Dick Durbin, Democrat from Illinois, put it Monday afternoon. We've got to get beyond this impeachment is the answer to every problem. It's not realistic, Durbin said. If that's how we are identified in Congress as the impeachment Congress, we run the risk that people will feel we're ignoring the issues that mean a lot to them as families. Here's your fight. If you're voting in the primaries next year, the easiest way to make your decision is by asking yourself which of the candidates would go along with Durbin or some other withered bag of yellow onions on an issue. A possible sexual predator able to tilt the Supreme Court in favor of corruption until the day he fucking dies? That absolutely means a lot to families, even if said families haven't put a ton of consideration into it. Durbin doesn't have time for all your airy-fairy ideas about holding people accountable or prosecuting criminal activity. Any candidate who tacitly agrees with him is staking their claim to the same turf that got Hillary Clinton exactly nowhere 3 years ago, save for the occasional soul-searching walk in the woods. You want leading from behind? This is leading from behind. Here's a Democrat saying that the most realistic thing for him and his colleagues to accomplish is nothing. That's what's possible. Nothing. This is the hallmark of Democrats who supposedly get things done. What they're really telling you is that you should expect them to fail. You should not expect them to fight. You should not expect them to wield their power with confidence. You should expect them to give the opposition enough slack to negate anything good that they themselves would potentially do for their constituents and for America as a whole. For the fucking world, even. Meanwhile, Donald Trump is president, caging migrants and standing under a helicopter every day telling reporters he's going to look into resurrecting USA up all night. This country has lost its fucking mind, and yet certain Democrats think that the ideal of pragmatism entails capitulating to that lunacy and apologizing for their own ideas before they've even presented them. These are Democrats, many of them far past their respective expiration dates, lecturing their juniors about what is realistic because they themselves live in a Sorkinized fantasy land where unity is just a speech away and every fuckface Republican is the Grinch right before his heart grows 3 sizes and he finds himself with the strength of 10 men plus 2. It is only logical that candidates would see fit to pander to voters, particularly during primary season. Politicians are hardwired to tell voters what they want to hear. If that means finally promising gun control without all the attendant, "Oh, but I respect the Second Amendment" garbage that normally comes with it, that's a nice development indeed. But that shit cannot be lip service. Not now. I don't want any of these candidates acting like they're gung-ho for Medicare for all before morphing back into a Dick Durbin action figure. Such aspirants deserve to be consigned to the electoral dust bin, and with a quickness. At a certain point, voters elect leaders to lead. Calcified lifers such as Durbin are choosing to follow rather than lead, drifting whichever way Mitch McConnell blows the wind, and then they have the gall to think that's a valuable lesson to teach their peers. They are determined to work solely within an incredibly limited framework that is clearly busted, all while chiding the recklessness of any brash contemporaries, young or old, who might question the structure of that framework. It's not that the status quo is good in their eyes, it's that the status quo is all they can conceive of existing. They have a singular idea of what politics is and how it works, and they broach no divergence from that. It's like Trump never happened. So as you progress through what has already become an endless campaign season, keep an eye open for any candidate who boasts about being realistic and about changing the system from within. These are the candidates who abhor being challenged both on their policies and on their abilities. These are the candidates whose only pitch is that they can get rid of Trump and get you back in that time machine to 2015, the same year that laid the groundwork for our current hellscape. It wasn't a very good year. I think I had to get a root canal. But somehow getting back to that counts as getting things done for our laziest, most entrenched Democrats. These are the supposed adults in the room. Maybe they're the ones who need to grow the fuck up.